I'm so excited about today's video. I saw a comment on my last video, which was the get ready with me. It was like the very natural makeup. Obviously, I was speaking a lot in that video about my best friend Isla's wedding. I was talking about how I was doing her makeup for that, which I've obviously done it now. It went so well. So I thought we could do a makeup tutorial on the makeup that I did on her today. This will be perfect for any bride. If you're a bridesmaid as well, this would be a really great makeup look, or if you've got prom coming up this year. Realistically, it's just a good soft glam makeup look that lasts really well, looks really flawless, looks really kind of effortless, it's not too heavy. Yeah, I just thought I would talk you guys through it. I'm gonna do it as quite an in-depth tutorial in case anyone does want to use this as a wedding makeup look, because I definitely feel like there are some like tips and steps and certain products that really do help with longevity. So grab a drink. I've just had a protein shake because your girl went to the gym today for the first time in a while. I'm going to Italy next week and I have left it until the very last minute to get my summer body in check. Yeah, get a drink, so I feel like this is going to be a long makeup tutorial. So we're going to start with the eyes, just so that the skin is the last thing that we do. It's kept super fresh, and if there's any mistakes, any fallout or whatever, it's obviously a lot easier to clean up before you've done your base. I'm going to use two main products for the brows. I'm going to use my Anastasia Brow Freeze. This is just a clear brow wax that looks like so. You don't have to use this product. All of these products are quite like interchangeable, so you can use anything that you have that is similar. I do recommend using a brow wax, even if you don't like a really feathery brow, just to basically keep the brow hairs in place. I like to basically brush the hairs upwards first, just like so. I'm kind of doing them not completely upwards, but just towards the direction of where they go. And then I'm literally just gonna take my finger and basically just press that down. So yeah, as I said, you can use a whole number of things for this. It doesn't have to be this exact product, but just adds a little bit of texture to the hairs as well, so that any product that you put on top adheres really well. And then I'm just gonna use like the top edge of this brush and basically just comb them down so they're not too crazy. I then like to go in with a brow pencil, so I'm going to use my Refi pencil in the shade Medium. Brows are one of those things that kind of depend person to person. I don't have much of a tail, so I draw my own tail on. If someone has really great brows and they don't really need a lot doing, then you can just kind of flick some pencil or some brow powder through just to add a little bit of like shape and texture. I do have to draw on a whole tail, so I'm gonna do this now. And then you can always use the brush just to gently comb that out if you feel like you've gone a little bit too heavy. Okay, I've just finished this one. They are looking a little bit thick, but I am going to clean them up with concealer. So I'm going to start with some eye cream. This is my Ulla Henriksen Banana Bright, and I like to do this after I've done my brows, because if you get any sort of cream in the brow hairs or around where you're adding pencil to the brows, it won't stick and last as long. So you want to do your brows on a dry base and then go in with some eye cream. Super important to prep the lids as well, just so that everything goes on really seamlessly on top and nothing looks too dry. I personally then like to use concealer to prime the lids. Obviously you can use an eye base if you want to, but I find that concealer and loose powder works really well. I'm going to use my Too Faced what is this called? Multi-use sculpting concealer in the shade Almond. And then I like to use just a flat brush to begin with, because I'm just gonna really gently carve out the brow. You don't want this to look too harsh. You don't want it to look like a really like harsh line of concealer, but I do like to carve them out ever so slightly just to make everything really neat, and also to highlight under the brow bone as well. And then I'm just gonna start feathering that concealer onto the lid. I love having like a rounded fluffy brush for concealer. I also use this under the eyes when I'm doing someone else's makeup. Also really great for like touch-ups around the nose. And I do also use it on the lid just because it disperses product really nicely and it really feathers it and blends it out. I'm just gonna use a sponge, and I do this as well when I'm doing someone else's makeup when I finish buffing the concealer out, just to really press it into the lid and basically just to absorb any excess product. I'm then just going to use some of my Laura Mercier loose powder just to set that down. In terms of eyeshadow, this is the palette that I used on Isla on her wedding day. This is a Kylie Cosmetics palette. Honestly, you could use so many different eyeshadow palettes for this kind of makeup look. You just want a good kind of selection of matte browns. I also like that this palette has two like shimmery shades. These are really pretty on the lid. I'm gonna start with this warm brown shade here, and I'm using like a round blending brush. This is a Zoeva 228. I'm gonna do kind of like a winged eye. Again, this kind of depends on person to person. Like if you're doing someone else's makeup for this, they might want a more rounded eye. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do today, and we're just gonna start on the outer corner, and I'm just gonna do really small kind of like circular buffing motions like right in the crease. I like to start with kind of like a smaller amount of product just because we can obviously always add more. But as I've got less product on the brush, I'm then just going to start really gently bringing it in. I'm not going to bring it all the way in because I want to keep the inner lid space kind of like bright. Very gently just going to flick it up a tiny bit as well towards the tail of the brow. You can also, as you have less product, start moving up towards the brow bone as well, and it'll just really nicely like disperse the shadow. And then something that I like to do is literally just with a sponge. It doesn't even really need anything on. You can just use the corner of it to lightly cut the line. And I like doing this compared to a makeup wipe because it just makes it look a lot softer. I'm then going to take a smaller brush. This is a Morphe M514, and I'm going to use that slightly darker warm brown. And we're going to do the same thing with this, but I'm going to focus it a little bit more towards the lash line. But again, just really gentle circular motions. Obviously this is a darker shade as well, so you just want to be careful with how much you apply of it. And then again, I'm just going to start buffing it upwards and inwards. Again, just really gently flicking it to give a bit of a wing shape. And then just going to go back in with the bigger brush, no additional product, just to diffuse what we've put down. Okay, so we're at like a happy point now where it's not super dark. At this point, I'm gonna do a shadow liner. I love doing a shadow liner when I want a makeup look that kind of just looks softer. It's obviously softer than doing gel or pencil or something like that. If you have oily eyelids or you have an issue with like your makeup lasting on your eyes, I definitely say to do a base with either a gel or a pencil. You just want a good angled brush for this. And I'm going to use the darkest brown. And then something that I always like to do is just to like pinch either side, and it'll basically just get rid of any kind of like fallout of the shadow, just so you don't go too crazy to begin with. And I'm just going to lay this on the outer corner of the eyes first. Obviously I've got lashes on. So yeah, I'm just going to lay this down literally just on the very outer corner. It's just going to add a little bit of depth and just make the lash line look a bit darker and more defined. And then it's totally optional if you do a wing or not. Again, I feel like it depends on everyone's eye shape. I like to add a wing to my eyes just because I like that elongated look, and obviously my lashes are longer at the end as well. They're like a cat shape, so it fits really nicely. Okay, and then at this point, I'm gonna use the concealer brush that I used to carve the brows. It's not got any additional product on, but I just run this under the wing just to neaten it up. I need to speak to you guys about this product a sec. Every single person needs this product. I found this in Boots. I've never seen anyone speak about these. I don't know if they're new. It's called the Ultimate Glow Shots. I want to say it comes in packaging that looks like this. I have the shade Golden Goji. Looks like so, like you can see already on the applicator, it is just stunning. I don't want to do like a cut crease or anything. I don't want anything to be like too defined with this. So I'm just going to kind of like pat it on. Because it's a cream as well, anything that we put on top is obviously going to pop a lot more. We're then going to take our two shimmers. So I've got obviously this one that's a little bit lighter that actually matches this quite well. And then I have this slightly darker gold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the lighter shade, and I'm going to put this directly on top of that cream shadow that we just laid down. Oh, it just goes on so nicely. And then I'm gonna use the darker one, basically in the middle, and it's gonna help create like a gradient across the eye. I have like a bit of a pet peeve when like shimmer and matte doesn't blend together or it doesn't look seamless. So I use a slightly darker shimmer in the center just to help that like gradient go through. And then we're just gonna quickly go in with a tiny bit more of that brown, literally a dab, and we're just gonna feather that on the very outer part of the shimmer. Okay, so those are eyes all done. I'm obsessed with them. You could wear this for anything, by the way. It doesn't have to just be for bridal makeup or prom makeup. It could literally just be Saturday night, out on the town, having a few drinks kind of makeup. Okay, skin is important because obviously we want this to last. I'm just gonna start by using some micellar water just to clean up any mess. This is the moisturizer that I use on Isla. She has a similar skin type to me, so my skin is normal to dry. If you have oily skin, then obviously some of these products will be different. I'm gonna try to name some alternatives. This is the Tatcha Dewy Skin Cream. It's a thick moisturizer. I love this stuff so much. It's really beautiful under foundation. It's really beautiful under makeup. I think especially with like bridal makeup, prom makeup, you just want that really like lit from within kind of makeup. And I don't know, having this as a base just seems to really do that. Like it really hydrates the skin. If you have oily skin, I'd probably just use like a light moisturizer here. I think Charlotte Tilbury do like a light version of their magic cream. If you want to really go the extra mile, give yourself a little face massage. Honestly, just really work the product into the skin. Okay, I'm then gonna go in with my Laura Mercier Illuminating Face Primer. I love this again on normal to dry skin. It has a slight tint to it. I don't know if you can see. It's got almost like a little bit of a pinky tint to it, like a peachy tint. Annoyingly, I don't think Laura Mercier are cruelty free. I didn't actually know that until recently because I am a cruelty-free girl. I only found that out recently. I thought they were for some reason, and I have the products, so I'm just gonna use them all. Okay, one more product before we go in with foundation. I'm gonna use my Iconic London Radiance Booster. This is in the shade Sand. It makes the skin look a little bit more even, which I quite like because then you don't go in with as much foundation because you've already applied this. Okay, and then foundation time. I loved the foundation that I used on Isla for her wedding makeup. I used Beautiful Skin by Charlotte Tilbury and I mixed it with another Charlotte Tilbury foundation that I can never remember the name of for some reason. It's the one that's the more full coverage foundation. I'll put it on the screen here. But I mixed the two for Isla's wedding makeup because I love this foundation. Beautiful Skin has a really gorgeous dewy finish to it. I'd say it's more of like a medium coverage, whereas the other foundation is more of a matte finish, but it has more coverage. So I find that that one lasts longer, but this one has a really nice finish. And again, for normal to dry skin, this one's really great. If you have dry skin, mix in a little bit more of this. If you have oilier skin, you could probably use just this foundation. Sorry, I feel like I'm really waffling, but I'm just trying to, you know, give you all the tips, tell you all the info. I have the shade 2 Neutral, and I think this is 7 Neutral. It's rubbed off. At the minute, I'm like in between having tan and not having tan. So I'm probably gonna use a little bit more of the shade 2 today. And then I like to use a flat foundation brush. This one is from Laura Mercier. The thing that I like about this brush, or like a flat foundation brush, is you can just really like dust over the skin without adding too much. I'm gonna be doing my neck just because we want everything to look seamless. Even if your foundation matches perfectly, it's still good to just bring it down because the finish will then match. So yeah, as you can see, it's got a really gorgeous glowy finish. It's added a really nice amount of coverage to the skin, but it's not like heavy. I'm gonna take whatever is left and kind of just mix it together. And then I do one final light layer with the sponge. And I feel like this just makes your makeup look a lot more airbrushed. Because we did brows first, I'm going to use a little bit of that foundation just to very gently carve the top of the brow. I don't want to have like a harsh line but I just want to get the shade like obviously the same all over. Okay, moving on to cream bronzer. I'm gonna do cream bronzer and cream blush for this because we really want to utilize cream products underneath powder product. It's just gonna help everything to last as long as possible. I like to use an angled brush, just like a flat angled brush, and I'm just gonna take this straight onto the brush and onto the cheekbone. I like to do kind of on top of my cheekbone because this is more of like a bronzer shade rather than a contour shade, and it's just gonna help to warm the skin up in a really, really nice way. I'm gonna do around the forehead as well. I'm just gonna gently do the sides of the nose as well. Okay, next up I'm gonna do cream blush. Again, one of my favorite steps. Charlotte Tilbury light ones are just my favorite for these. I love them so much. On eyeliner, I used this one, which is the shade Pinkgasm, which I love the shade of this. It's very glowy, has like kind of like that pinky tint to it, so it works really nicely as blush, but it works really nicely as a highlighter as well. This is another one that I really love, and I feel like this will be beautiful on deeper skin tones as well. This is the shade Dream Pop. I'm gonna use this one today just because I haven't actually used it on myself in a while, and personally I like to take blush all the way up. I'm now gonna do concealer under the eyes, and I think today I'm gonna use my Tarte Shape Tape in the shade Light Medium Sand, and also a little bit of my Pat McGrath concealer as well. I'm not gonna go crazy with this. I'm just gonna do inner corner, outer corner, and then I'm gonna place a bit of a lighter shade in the middle. Okay, so you just want a clean blending brush, just like a round eyeshadow brush. I love doing this on other people because you can really kind of like blend the concealer out and get right up to like the lash line. It's a lot easier to do it on yourself with a sponge, but I feel like when you're doing makeup on other people, I used to do this at MAC all the time when I worked on counter. Oh my god, that feels like a lifetime ago. But yeah, it's just really good for getting right up to like the lash line and really like buffing it in. I think I might actually just add some of my e.l.f. Sorry, that's like not as light as I was hoping it was gonna be. I like a bright under eye because concealer's always gonna get darker when it sets down with powder anyway, and I feel like as it wears throughout the day it also gets darker, so I tend to start with a bit of a lighter under eye. Obviously at this point you can add a little bit more blush if you've kind of like lost that. I like to do concealer very last, which is sometimes annoying because I bring it down and then it just kind of covers up everything else, but I don't like to have it sat on the skin too long before I set it. I like to set it down pretty much straight away. Time to set. I'm going to use a Trigwell powder puff and my Laura Mercier loose powder. Any loose powder that you like will do the job, but I feel like having a powder puff is really what makes everything look super seamless. And I'm gonna start at the outer corner and then bring that in and downwards towards the nose, and then we go back up and just buff out the edges. The thing that I like about this powder is you don't have to sweep it away once you've put it down. So you literally just apply it. Obviously as well, make sure that you've buffed out like any fine lines. Honestly, even if your skin is dry, make sure you really set it for like wedding makeup, prom makeup, whatever. I also like to do the forehead a little bit. It kind of just adds like a really blurred filter to the skin as well, which looks really pretty in pictures. Fenty bronzer is forever going to be my favorite. This is the shade Shavy Biz, which is honestly just like the perfect shade for my skin tone because it's not too warm, so I can use this to contour my nose as well. Again, I'm just gonna do around the neck area. I'm gonna take this like a little bit further down the neck as well, just to blend. And I'm also gonna use this to contour the nose. So you want a slightly smaller, like thin, fluffy brush for this. You could use an eyeshadow brush too. Personally, I like to just do each side, and then I also do underneath the nose. For the under eye, I like to use a more neutral brown because I don't like too warm of an under eye. I kind of just like to add something that looks a little bit like a shadow to add some definition. So I'm going to use a small brush again and the slightly more cool tone brown, and I'm going to focus this on the outer corner first, just like so. This is actually all I did on Isla. I feel like low lash line is very personal. Like some people don't really like a lot on their low lash line. And if you don't wear a lot of makeup on a day-to-day basis and you don't like too much of a heavy smoky eye, I would just leave that there. It's just like added a little bit of definition, but it's nothing too heavy. A highlighter, I'm gonna use my Charlotte Tilbury Moonlit Glow highlighter. It's a really gorgeous gold tone. I like this one because it's not super pigmented, so I don't know, it's not gonna look really heavy. It just adds a nice kind of like radiance to the skin. I love highlighting the inner corner. Again, I just feel like that finishes off the eyes really nicely, and it just adds like a sparkle to the inner corner. Like I feel like it just draws like light to your eyes. Same with the brow bone. Like I love to highlight the brow bone ever so slightly. And then for blush, I'm gonna use my Milani Baked Blush in the shade Dolce Pink, just over the top of where I applied the Charlotte Tilbury blush wand. And then for lips, I think I'm gonna mix Pillow Talk and Hot Gossip. It's just like a really gorgeous pinky nude color. Again, lips is very like personal, but I just think kind of like a pinky nude is very pretty, especially for bridal makeup. I kind of want it to be like a your lips but better color, I always think. So if you have a lip liner that's kind of close to your natural lip color, but maybe just like a little bit darker, then I feel like that would do a really good job. I also like to fill in the lip with the lip pencil because it'll help the lip to last. I'm then gonna go in with a lip tint. This is Tinted Love in the shade Petal Pink, again from Charlotte Tilbury. Any form of lip tint is always a really good idea because obviously it's a lot more long lasting than a lipstick. I'm just gonna add a teeny tiny bit of concealer just to give a little bit more of like a pouty lip. And then I'm just gonna finish off with a pinky gloss. This is Blushed Gold from Charlotte Tilbury. Absolute essential is setting spray. You really want a good setting spray. I have always used Urban Decay All Nighter. It lasts so well, and I feel like it just really kind of like blends everything together. Honestly, I feel like this just makes your makeup last through anything, like tears, sweat. If you get any like drips, water, tears or anything on your face, don't dab them, just let them dry, like give yourself a fan, and it'll look absolutely fine. I think I might actually just take my sponge ever so slightly, just carve underneath my bronzer. Oh my god, sorry, I actually forgot one product that I did use, and it is this glowy loose powder from Laura Mercier. It's a translucent loose and it's in the shade Honey Star. I have a feeling my camera's gonna die, so I'm sorry if it does, but this on the chest, stunning. It's like glowy, but because it's the powder, it's not gonna transfer too much if you are obviously wearing a wedding dress or, I don't know, a white prom dress or something. My prom dress was actually white. Really hope you guys enjoyed this and found it useful if you are looking for bridal makeup, prom makeup, whatever it is. If you have any more questions, then just leave them down below because I'm always reading through your comments. Camera's literally gonna die, so I'm gonna say goodbye now. I hope you all have a lovely week and I will see you in the next one.